Shalom. My name is Scott Levin, and I am very excited to welcome you to the Jewish Community Relations Council of the United Jewish Federation of Tidewater, Simon Family JCC, Embassy of Israel, and Community Partners 10th Annual Israel Today series. Our guest this afternoon is a part of one of the biggest Israeli TV series to date, an action thriller and groundbreaking global phenomenon, Fauda. Based on the real-life experience of its creators, the series follows a team of elite Israeli undercover agents as they work to apprehend Hamas activists in the West Bank. With down and dirty credibility, authentic performances, and a mixture of emotional extremity with speedy, nonchalant storytelling, Fauda portrays the complex Palestinian-Israeli conflict in a new light, opening a window into the Middle East and sparking meaningful dialogue about cultural identity. I've been a huge fan of Fauda ever since it began on Netflix in 2015. I followed their posts to mark upcoming seasons on my calendar. I've binge watched every season. If you have not watched every episode, this is the perfect time for binge watching. Ala Dakka was born in Beersheba and is a graduate of the Goodman Acting School of the Negev. He is fluent in 3 languages, Hebrew, Arabic, and English, and speaks some Russian. He is a singer, rapper, and musician, playing the guitar, bass guitar, piano, and drum. As an actor, he made his film debut in Aaron Colorin's Beyond the Mountains and Hills, which premiered at the Cannes Film Festival. Dakka's most recent credits include Entebbe from director Jose Padilla and participant media in the TV series Mossad 101. He received a Best Supporting Actor nomination for The Cousin at the 2017 Israeli Academy Awards. Joining us this afternoon to sit down with Ala is co-founder of the incredible podcast Israel Story, Yochai Matal. Israel Story has been called the Israeli version of This American Life and boasts listeners from 194 countries and has upwards of 2 million downloads a year, bringing you extraordinary tales of ordinary Israelis. Yochai is a senior producer of Israel Story podcast and radio show. His work is on the theme of journalism and art. He spends his days combing Israel and the world for stories and then endlessly fretting over how best to tell them. Yochai is passionate about bringing you tales that reveal the less talked about sides of Israel and is driven by the belief that experiencing life through another's eyes is an essential part of a compassionate society. Yochai currently lives in New York with his wife Daphna and 3 kids, but wakes up every morning dreaming of Tel Aviv. Thank you to Ala and Yochai for joining our community this afternoon. Throughout the program, please feel free to submit your questions through the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. Yochai and Ala will do their best to get to them. Without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Yochai and Ala Dakka.
Thank you so much for that great introduction, Scott. Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. Ala.
Yeah. Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just happy to be talking to you. You know, first of all, just a little confession to all of you. This is, I think, our 3rd meeting in this series. I've kind of been, sort of using you to bring on just some good friends and people I love talking to. And so it gives me this opportunity to have these talks with people that I really love. So I'm very excited for you guys all to meet Ala, who's a really amazing and very talented actor and human. Before we dive in, maybe I'll just show you a quick a reel of Ala in action, playing in different parts, and then we'll talk. By the way, throughout I'll be showing you different clips and different stuff. I haven't coordinated this with Ala, so maybe we'll embarrass him a little bit. And yeah, and I see Louise is already with the questions about Fauda, so we'll definitely we'll dive into Fauda very shortly. All right, so let's see if I can manage this technically. All right.
שנייה.
Sorry, and I'm back. Yeah, so Ala, thank you so much for making the time for us. I know you're actually after a long day of filming there in Israel. It's 9 o'clock at night there. Can you tell us a little bit about where you are, what you're doing now, why you have that big beard?
Yeah, yeah. I'm in Nazareth in the north of Israel. We're shooting a short film with a very talented young director. Was making a crazy story about two people from the Arab community, homosexual kind of love, and underneath, not nobody knows about it. One of them is old, one of them is young. I'm playing the old one this time,
Oh,
and
you're the
it's
old
very
one this
fun.
time.
And he's yeah,
All right.
and yeah, it's very fun. I mean, and making cinema. He's just started his way, so it's crazy. It's very fun to do it. When you're just starting doing cinema, you have so much passion. You have so much. I don't know. You have so much. It's fun. It's fun to do. I'm having very fun. It's the second day here. I have one more day, and yeah, I think it's gonna be a great film. I hope you all guys can watch it. I think you will. It's gonna be
Awesome.
in festivals and stuff.
Thank you so much for again for making the time for us, especially in these circumstances. I want to ask you maybe sort of starting off chronologically with your childhood. So you grew up in Beersheba, um, going to as an Arab Israeli. You went to a predominantly Jewish school. How was that for you, and how do you think that affected who you are today, your identity?
I'm asking myself that question. My childhood was very mixed because I grew up inside a Jewish community, and my parents, sort of never wanted me to know what is all about. I knew I was different. I knew my name was different than the other kid's name. At home, my parents are talking different language, but I don't think I ever knew uh, how much this story of this way of living for me is gonna make my identity a complex. And with time I understood more stuff. You get bigger, you get older. You never get older. You just get taller, and you find knowledge, and you understand how much this it's complicated. That the two identities, the Jewish identity I grew up in, and the Arab Palestinian identity my parents came from, are in a conflict. So those two identities that are in you, the one you grew up with and the one you came from, are in a conflict. So I think what it gave me mostly is sort of observation from the side, on things, on people, on identities, on myself, because I had always where to run to. If I wasn't comfortable with the Jewish community, I would run to my Palestinian Arab identity. If I wasn't comfortable with my our Palestinian Arab identity, I would go to my Jewish identity. I can say that, to my Israeli identity. And so it's sort of like a mixture. It's like a mix that was in my mind. I don't think I have a a solid answer to what my childhood will bring me in the future. All I know that until now, I'm just trying to raise all of the identities inside my body, just like plants, to make them all grow.
So not you don't want to answer it because you want to keep all the different identities together, you're saying. I think it's interesting, I think
Yeah,
there's something
yeah,
to people who are afraid of the other. You because you grew up in Beersheba and you went to a regular or like a regular Jewish high school. You don't like answer any of the stereotypes people might have in their minds. Of like I don't know what an Arab should look like or something like that. So it's almost even more threatening sometimes to people who are afraid of the other because it's
that's why
like
it was so funny for me. It was so
yeah,
funny
yeah,
for me to grow a beard, because I grow a beard now. I'm scary. So now, like now I'm on what people think the Arab should look like. you know But yeah, it's not that I'm not afraid of the other. I'm curious about the other. I want the other to be a
Yeah,
part of me.
yeah. So maybe we'll get back to this discussion, but maybe we'll really like dive into Fauda because I already see a bunch of questions that people really, I think, want to talk about Fauda today. And then we'll sort of go back and talk about some other things, if that's good with you, Ala.
Yeah.
So, I mean, tell us a little bit of, people also are asking this, and also I wanted to ask you about this. In the series, you play a young budding boxer with a promising career who sort of finds himself thrown into these circumstances that lead him to make, you know, these choices that he can't come back from, and eventually into being a terrorist. Um, how was that for you? And also, people want to know, how did you get ready for this role?
Oh, it's very complicated for me because I never took the circumstances of my life um to get me to a point where I want revenge, and somehow I felt that this character wants me to go find revenge and looking to look as an actor for the revenge so called is something that was very hard for me to understand. It was very hard for me to find. I mean, to find something to find some comfort in anger. I have many things I use before I use my anger. Somehow I felt this character is too naive, and I had a lot of. I mean, I think I judged the character a lot before I started. I mean, before shooting, and so there are many things that I needed to come over. But the most important thing that it was the one thing I was sure about is the sport. I mean, the love of the character to sport, and um, and that's where I went. I went and I was a smoker. I quit smoking and I started running, and I started boxing and I started to find sort of I tried looking for a solution to my anger. You know, the normal anger, the normal day-to-day life anger, and to find a solution by just punching a bag and um and from one time to another, and I started to do it more and more and more and started enjoying it. uh I mean, with time. So
So it's something
somehow I found that
you never boxed before. It's something you got into.
I never punched before. I never gave a punch. I don't
You're
think
a
I mean,
you're
I
a peaceful
really,
person.
no. I was always too. I could talk. I mean, I could get myself out of trouble with talking. I never had to punch anybody. So it was. I mean, it was okay for me I could get away from it. But
Yeah.
I found so much fun in that punching, in that anger, in that, it has something, it has a lot of man. I'm not going to say it's a manly thing, but it's something that you can find your man part, your more manly parts when you punch a bag, when you want to show the bag how much you're tough. And
Yeah.
so I found a lot of times, and the sport gave me a lot of solutions for the character, and I think the sport was the DNA of the character, and this the sport is what gave the whole character. I could understand the whole character with the love to sports.
And I mean, Fauda really, like, I mean, it was a big deal for you, right? Kind of like a pivotal moment for you. Can you talk, I mean, about that a little bit? How is it like all of a sudden being going from? I mean, you did, of course, you were on TV and stuff before, but Fauda is an international success. I mean, for those of you at home who don't know, I mean, Fauda is actually like one of the most, or maybe the most streamed TV series in countries like Lebanon, and not just in Israel. So it has a big following also in the Arab world, which is really fascinating, I think, in my mind. And how has that changed your life, personally?
Well, it changed my life. I mean, it gave me a lot of options, opportunities. It gave me sometimes respect on some of the sets. I mean, it gave me sometimes, he did that. I mean, he did that. He did that. Um, but don't forget, the Fauda came out just when Corona time started. So it blocked the whole international thing. It just blocked it. So I kind of stayed home And I was invited
Well,
to
now
cut
everybody,
some.
yeah,
The what?
everybody can recognize you, but nobody's walking around, so you're just,
No, no, I
you
can't
know.
walk around. I mean, I can't walk around, so I didn't have the feeling of the international thing, the international part of it yet. Hopefully I will, but yeah, it gave me a lot. You know, I'm having this Zoom call. I'm talking about myself in English to a group of Americans from every time from somewhere else. So it's very fun. I feel honored. I feel like I want to
Your
share.
English
I
is
mean, I like.
amazing. Can you explain that to us? How is your English so good?
I fell in love with an American girl when I was 16 years old,
What?
and I had a long distance relationship for a year,
Oh, so
and
this is,
that's how I.
oh, okay. So
Yeah,
you,
so I was in a peace camp. I was in a peace camp, and I met some girl. I was 16 years old, and I met a girl, and we fell in love after 20 minutes, and we decided to stay together in a long distance relationship. And I came back, and she was here, and we were talking every day at 5 in the morning for a year. So I think that's how I trained my English. But beside that, I read
hmm,
sometimes, and I like rap music, and I hear a lot of English. So maybe that's how. And thank you very much for the compliment, Yochai.
of course. So I wanna just show for maybe for those of you who are less familiar with Fauda, I want to show a quick clip of one of my favorite scenes from season three with where Bashar is talking to his father actually, and it's kind of this pivotal moment um, where I think basically your character kind of realizes that you're on the road of no return. So we'll just watch it a few, like 3 minutes, I think, and then I want to talk to you about a little bit about the politics of Fauda or the non-politics of Fauda, and sort of get into that sort of messy business a little bit. So
All right.
here, let's do the screen sharing. 1 second. Okay, share screen. So, um, so Ala, on the one hand, I watch Fauda and I love Fauda. It's kind of like watching like a really long John Wick film or something. Like the action keeps coming and it just you can't stop watching it. It's really well done. Um, now but it's kind of confusing for me when I watch it because on the one hand, Fauda's an extremely political series, bringing to the forefront the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, to sort of mainstream TV in a way that's never been done before in like sort of Israeli primetime TV. Avi Sischarov, on the other hand, on the other hand, it seems that like Fauda tries really hard to sort of concentrate on the sort of human conflicts of the characters. Your character is sort of trying to win his father's approval, and Avi Sischarov himself, the creator, he says that it's a TV show, not a political manifesto. But of course, everybody's trying to read in to the politics of Fauda. And a lot of people also really criticize it for being anti-Arab, racist, Israeli propaganda tool that sort of glorifies the Israeli military machine by kind of sanitizing it. I think that they act making kind of like normalizing all the violence, and they see it Fauda as being kind of complicit in what is happening to the Palestinians. And on the other hand, of course, there are people that applaud it for its even-handed portrayal of the conflict and sort of humanizing even the other side, including the Hamas. I was just wondering where you stand, with your identity, in your complicated identity package in this space, on this issue, and what kind of feedback have you gotten from people around you for participating in Fauda?
Well, I got many feedbacks. I got but all of the feedbacks that I got, most of them were talking about the acting and the character and the storyline of Bashar, whether it was, whether they were disappointed of yeah, they were disappointed of him because of what he did in the end of the season or they were happy with his acting, or they said we believed you, or would I mean it was too, you know, things that to talk about really, like you said, the TV show part of it. Um, I feel like, well, it's an interesting story because I don't know, I don't feel like it's my place to defend the a work or a job, I mean, or a project I participated in. What I can say is, um, I bet they get critics, but what I can say is, they've watched it in the Arab world. It broke records of watching in the Arab world. So I think people were there to see what happens inside here. And I think what Fauda is trying to do is trying to take stories and to bring it. You know, I mean, I'm not saying that the stories well, I mean, I'm not saying that the stories are true. They're not true exactly. They were, you know, they were changed for a TV show, to make it a drama. The stories are a lot more complicated, most of the times. What I heard. So
Um,
the political
Jan, I
part
don't
of
know
it,
if you
but
know. Yeah,
well,
sorry.
what?
No, no, I cut you off.
I mean, I said the political. I mean, to talk about the political part of it is, I don't know because it's very hard not to. But you, as an Arab Palestinian, you do all the time stuff that has to do something with the politics. You know, I mean, have to do something always. You always confronting most of the projects that I'm doing are I'm confronting some sort of political part, and it's very dangerous for me uh, because you can say something. I mean, it's some sort of I mean the Arabs, the Palestinians that live inside Israel, it's like they can't be right anywhere. I mean, they say, I mean, if you say that if Fauda is correct, and then the Palestinians in Jenin and Ramallah will say, hey, look, he's a traitor. And if you're saying Fauda is exaggerating, and or Fauda is missing the point, or Fauda is not, then you're saying, and then the crowd here would say, oh no, he's part of them. So you always need to be a part of somebody. So I found myself a solution to that, and my solution is I'm focusing on, you know, on the storyline of Bashar and making it as real as I can. Um,
Focusing on
as
the work.
focusing, I think it's not focusing. Yeah, it's focusing on the work and focusing on the storyline of that guy, trying to understand it because politics bring you a lot of extreme emotion that has nothing to do with reality a lot of times.
Yeah.
So you need to try to avoid it, and not really. I mean, it is. I mean, it's politics. How does politics? You know, it's talking about the conflict for 70 years. It's talking about the situation on the board. I mean, in the borders right now. And every time you do something else, I mean, right now I did a film with Avinesha, which talks about the 1948 fight of Israel and Egypt. So that's like these are the characters that you're doing that a lot of times I'm doing. So I'm trying to find myself in a way that I'm saying, how do I how do I how do I come to a project, uh, as an individual, taking that complex of identities that there is me because of the complex of identities, coming in as an individual and try to give myself to the project and to the character mostly,
Yeah.
and uh, and yeah, I
I
think.
know I know that in most of almost all of your roles, you're cast as an Arab or a Palestinian. Um,
Mhm.
is that how do you feel about that? Is that something that bothers you or
No, not at all. Not at all. I like to be cast to Arab or Palestinian characters because that sort of investigation I'm doing with myself. It's only that I don't like, um, answering questions as an individual. I feel like the work is doing the answers for itself. I feel like I'm answering the questions while doing the work. Um, because as an individual, it's very scary because somehow there's no character to defend you. You're on your own, and what you're saying is what you're saying, and it's like sometimes I feel like politics is trying to look at you as an individual like a character, and you're not a character. You know, people think many things and change their minds so many times in a day, and have so many different thoughts on one little thing. So
Yeah.
I don't think I can provide a stable answer for the conflict to go with it just forever. You know, I don't know. But I like being a Palestinian on TV. I like being an Arab. I like doing the characters because that's an investigation I'm having with myself. That's a talking to myself thing, and I like it. I want to keep doing it. You know, I think I can be the best in these kind of characters because these are the characters that are interesting me the most.
Interesting. So I'm going to take a few questions here from people. I don't know if you know how to answer this, but do you know if Janet Cass is asking if season 4 is filming? Do you know if they're working on a next
They're
season?
writing it.
They're
They're
writing it.
writing the season right now. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. So there's what to look
Yeah.
forward to. And yeah, this is a question I actually wanted to ask you as well. Roseanne from Silver Spring, Maryland. Hi, Roseanne. She's asking, the series Fauda takes place, a lot of it in Gaza City and in the Gaza Strip. It's quite a specific sort of scene. I mean, it's hard to recreate that. How was that done? Where was the series filmed?
Okay, that's interesting because I can really I want to answer that question. That we shot that in a base, and we shot the interior in a base camp. That there's a base that's called Salim in the south of Israel. That is it's sort of a big, really big place that built like Gaza for soldiers to train. So
Oh,
yeah, so they painted it. They painted it and they made it. You know that there's a very genius art people here in the country, so they built it to look like Gaza. And the top shots, I mean, the top shots from above, those are really Gaza. I mean,
oh,
this
wow.
is really Gaza. Yeah, they bought it from somebody in there,
Hmm. Gotcha. So
so they
there's
mixed it
actually
all
like kind of
together.
like a replica of like a neighborhood in Gaza or something like that that was actually built for special units to practice in, and that's where you
Yeah,
shot.
yeah. And then we shot there, and then the shot from above are actually from Gaza. So they mixed it together and it looked good.
Wow. Um, Barbara, I think Barbara has, first of all, she wanted to compliment you, and she says that your acting was outstanding, and it's amazing to see you transform from this naive teen to a terrorist. I agree. She wants to know if
Thank you,
your
Barbara.
character is your character going to be back in season 4? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know yet.
Okay. Well, we're hoping for that. I am hoping for that, at least I'll
Yeah,
say.
me too.
Um, and there's a question here. What Israeli film would you recommend that you think Americans who enjoyed Fauda should watch?
Interesting question. I'm shooting a film like that. It's called a Portrait of a Victory. Portrait of Victory. It's a film
Portrait
by
of
Avi
is that
Nesher.
Avi Nesha?
Yeah, it's a sort of like Fauda, and you should watch The Band's Visit. I don't know if any of you watched it. It's one of the best
Totally.
films. The Band's
Yeah.
Visit and Life by Agfa. Those are two of the greatest films I've ever done here. I recommend,
Totally.
highly recommend. And The Time That Remains by Elias Liman. It's also a great movie.
Yeah. Maybe I'll just add a movie that I like. You didn't ask my opinion, but I'm just gonna throw it in there. The what is it called? The Syrian Wedding? Is that what it's called? Tuna. The the Syrian Wedding? Do you know what I'm talking about? With the
The
guy from
Syrian Wedding. Yeah. I haven't watched it. You watched it? Is it good?
Yeah, I think it's good. Oh, sorry. Um, yeah. Um, so, how much? All right, we're good for time. Right. Sorry. Yeah. So I wanted to just all right, did I miss a question here? No, we're good. So, I want to just a lot of I mean, you're known as an actor, of course, but music plays a really big role for you. I know in your life and in your identity, and you're always from what I know you, you're always singing and playing. And maybe before we start, I'm just gonna show people. I want to introduce people to another hidden talent that you have. Then maybe we'll talk a little bit about music.
All right. Jeez.
So yeah, for those of you who didn't get that, I'll just say that that was Ala playing the air trumpet, which is
Yeah.
incredible to see you do that. But also just you also write your own songs and play the guitar and the piano. Yeah, what is music for you, and is that something you want to pursue as well moving forward, or is it
Yeah.
just a hobby?
No. I think I'm working on an album with a friend. It's called Zav Shachol, which is uh, uh, black and golden, sort of like it's in Zahav Shachol is in Hebrew.
Black Gold.
Black gold. Yeah, black gold is good. And it's an album. We recorded it as it's like sort of a poetry and hip hop mixed together. And he's a friend of mine. We recorded all over the year. And there's a song coming out in about 10 days. Well, in 2012, there'll be a song coming out in Hebrew. The first song we'll make it together, and we're gonna release that album. I love music, I'm enjoying it. I'm doing it for fun now because it's not making any. I haven't really tried going on the radios and stuff. I stopped it 7 years ago when I started acting, and so it's really. I mean, I like. I mean, I sometimes I feel like in music I can talk about the politics, be the individual, but stay a character.
In the
Sometimes I feel like be the individual character. So sort of like what I can't do as an actor, because the actor always gives you, the character that defends you against the world. Because you don't, I mean, you're too scared to be yourself, so you're being a character. But music gives you the opportunity to talk as yourself and stay somehow a character in front of the audience, so they don't really can point the finger on you and say you're a bad or a good person. So I think that's why I like it. And I met a friend of mine. He's a producer. We known each other for a couple of years, and he said, "Look, I'm doing stuff on the computer. Let's just go for the ride. Let's go for a trip. Let's go for an album." I said, "Okay." And we started with one song. We recorded 10,
Wow.
and when we're going to start releasing it, yeah, we're still going to start releasing it one after one after the other. Most of the texts are mine, and it's very very exciting. And I don't know what's going to happen with it. We're going to send it for the radios. We're going to do some stuff. We're going to do, publish it anywhere possible. Maybe do a show or a concert if it'll be possible. But yeah, I mean, music is something that I think it's not just a hobby. It's some sort of an exit, some sort of how do you call the stairs that outside the building?
The exit, the emergency exit.
Yeah, exactly. Emergency exit.
Ah,
And
never heard of music being referred to as the emergency exit. The emergency
yeah,
exit from what?
from life, from talking, from like when you really want to talk to yourself. I mean, when you really want to talk, because I mean, as an actor, sometimes you are a character, but yourself as an individual can really ruin. I mean, if people know you too much, it can really ruin the story. I mean, it can really ruin what they think about the character. It's sometimes, a lot of times, it's not good.
Huh. That's interesting
Yeah.
what you're saying. So what
because
it kind of like ruins the mystique, or
yeah, it's kind of ruining. I feel like it's ruining, you don't need to really know the person, because when you know the actor in person, when you know what his thoughts about the conflict, what is he like to eat, what is he going, what is he doing, you're not interested in him anymore. You don't see his character, you see himself. And sometimes acting needs acting needs the actor to stay in the back and let the character speaks. That's my perspective, of course. That's not it's not a I don't know, that's what I think. But music, first of all, I love lyrics, I love writing, I love good writing, something that I always appreciated. No matter what language, English, Hebrew, Arabic, good writing is good writing, and you can sense it. And I wish I could know Russian better so I can read, the big novelists of Russia, and there's a very big important history of poetry and writing in Russia. But really, no matter what language, if you want to know something about a whole nation, read the poetry of that nation, and you learn the most of it.
yeah.
So I have really a lot of I like words. So that's where poetry comes from, and that's where music comes from, and I like music, of course. So mixing it together, and you're making an album.
Ala, what do your parents think about your career choice and all of this? Were they the ones who pushed you into acting, or I mean, where did this come from? How did you get your start?
Well, no, actually, no. In high school, I was in physics and mathematics. My dad wanted me to be a lawyer and wanted me to have something to do in life where I would be 100% sure that I would not knock on his door and said, "Dad, I need money because I'm broke."
Hmm.
Um, he wanted me to be safe in life, and I said, "Dad, I want to be an actor," and he didn't know what to do with himself. Till- But till today, and I think today he's very proud of me. I think today he's very sure that I'm in a good place, because it's not that I'm acting, but I'm giving myself, I'm doing it full-time job. I'm giving my heart to it. Really, I'm not saying no. I'm not saying, if I like a script, I do it, no matter what, because I like to invest in scripts and I like doing it, really. Like, that's the thing that I like, and I like doing it with no breaks. And that's the most important thing about this, is that if you choose that kind of business, which is a hard business, there's no really time for a break. If there's a job, you got to go to work. You can't just decide to rest for a month and not take projects, because you don't know where project will come. Projects is like, it's like fish in the sea, The fish
Yeah.
are coming under the boat. You need to catch them. It doesn't matter if you're tired.
So you
So
actually had to kind of stand up to your father in order to get into acting and go against him. In a way a kind of rebellion.
yeah, at first I
Rebellion.
had to go against him. At
Wow.
first I had to go against him. Nobody in the family ever did something that even close to art.
Huh.
Um, Nobody. No, they all went to some, they all went to places or to works that people can, that they can live. Lawyers, accountants, I have a lot of doctors in the family, which is very good. It's very helpful.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. How did you get into acting? Where did the bug come from?
sort of accident, sort of come by accident. I really wanted to go to singing. I went to a reality show, and
Hmm.
then I started rolling in the reality show, and somehow I got more options to go to be an actor than
But
to
in,
go
in
for
life,
singing.
I mean, like more like in you. Is like, what? Is there a moment where you're like, oh, I'm actually like I can act.
In the
Like,
studio, when I started the studio,
uh-huh.
I went into the studio, into class on the first, second, and third week. I went to an acting studio just because I needed to be somewhere. I didn't know what I'm going to do with my life, and they said, "Hey, come be an actor." And I felt like that place really appreciates me, the studio, the acting studio I went to. And I
Hmm.
always gave trust to places that say you're good. so so I went and I started in the studio, and they always gave me a feeling that the Goodman acting studio. They always gave me a feeling you're in the right place. So I stayed and I finished it. And my dad didn't want me. And in the first 6 months, I didn't even tell him I'm going to school. And he didn't even know where I'm going.
Do
But
you still do theater, by the
uh,
way, or are you only doing like movies and TV now?
there's no theater now anyway. But I am doing theater. I'm going to a lot. A lot. I'm flying to a lot after tomorrow for a month of rehearsal for a theater that's going to be done outside. With another actor that was in Fauda, Amir Khouri, which played Samir in the second season. We're good friends, and we decided to go for a ride, for that kind of ride, and we're going to a lot for a whole month of rehearsal in a kibbutz on the desert. Nobody's in there, and
Ayelet
we're
HaShachar?
doing the play. Well, what?
Which kibbutz? Ayelet HaShachar? Or...
I don't remember. I'm gonna know tomorrow. I think
Okay.
it's like each
Mhm.
there is several groups. Each one is making a play. Each one is staying in a different kibbutz because of the corona. So it's like capsules. So so each one is in a kibbutz, and we're doing a play each one, and then there's like a festival where all the plays, each one has several days, and all the people from the kibbutz can go to the plays, to the shows, and we're doing the Maids, which is a very well known play. It's I think it's from France. I'm 100% sure, and I'm very excited because it's a month being in a lot. I've never been a month
Wow,
in a lot, so
awesome.
it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll get back to that voice that you mentioned at the very end. But
Mhm.
first, I want to take a question from Gina, who asks, what would your dream role be?
My dream role. I think my dream role is being, I don't know why, it's I mean, I really want to play a detective somehow. I don't know why. I really want to play a detective some in this very small town in Israel, investigating cases about here. I really want to play a detective. Uh, I don't know if a dream. Oh, well, if you're talking about theater, so of course Shakespeare plays. I want to do Romeo and Juliet, or I want to do King Lear. How do you call it in English? King Lear.
Yeah, King Lear. Hmm.
And some of Hanoch Levine's plays. Hanoch Levine is a very well-known writer. But I think, like, when I'm talking about cinema, really, cinema or TV shows, I really want to play. I don't know why, some sort of a guy inside a his job is giving him a hard life on his life. But I think I'm too young for these kind of roles, but I'm waiting for it, and it will happen.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like kind of like True Detective
Yeah.
or something like that. Is that what?
Maybe, but I really want it to be in a small town
Mhm.
in here in Israel, not American town. Really, like very authentic here. Somewhere in the south of Israel, dealing with Bedouins cases, or a lawyer dealing with cases. Yeah, investigating this kind of area, these kind of worlds.
Yeah.
The not very known worlds of Israel.
Yeah. Um, I missed one question from before. I'm just jumping back to Fauda quickly, and then I want to tell a little bit of little story, anecdote from our meeting each other. But I think it's Louise asked, what is the role of Captain Ayub and the Secret Service in the Secret Service?
What is
If I
what
understood him correctly,
who
I think what is the role of Captain Ayub? So I think he's talking about one of the characters in Fauda, and Captain Ayub is basically a high-ranking officer in the Shabak, right? An
exactly?
interrogator.
Yeah, yeah. Interrogator in the Shabak.
Yeah. Um, so Ala, we met, me and Ala, we met through Israel Story actually. Other than having a podcast, we also do a live show. We were in Virginia as well with you guys, and Ala we brought him to, we took one of our stories and sort of turned it into a mini musical. And so we were looking for actors, and that's how we took Ala. This was like maybe 4 years ago or something like that. Um,
Wow.
and we toured the US when you could still tour and perform in front of live audience, etc. And I remember we had this one show in I believe it was in Brooklyn, where we didn't have any control of the ticketing at all. So we had no idea who will come, and there was this feeling that basically nobody will show up before the show. And I remember setting up, and I was really bummed. And you came up to me and you're like, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Even if one person comes, like that person, we're gonna blow his mind, and that's enough. Like you were totally cool with it. You were totally fine with it, and I found that like so inspiring. I really like. I feel like I still remember that conversation that we had many years ago. So you mentioned that you got your start on the stage. The reason I'm talking about this is you mentioned you got your start on the stage through singing, actually. And your start, actually, you started with a failure. And
Exactly.
maybe we'll just watch it for a second, and then we'll talk a little bit about, we'll as our last sort of topic, we'll talk about failure. And we'll
Okay.
end on that, on a note of failure, but in an optimistic way. We'll try and give it that. All right. The advantages of failing, maybe, or something like that. So here we go. We're sharing the screen. 1 second. Bear with me, people. Okay, dokie.
Oh, you're bringing me back to it, Johan.
So for those of you not familiar with the format or the voice, you're singing to their backs, and at least one of the judges needs to turn around for you to, move on, right?
Yeah.
You're singing the whole song, singing your guts out there, and the people we're cutting to there, those are your family, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My mom, my
All of
dad,
your
my sisters, and
family,
my
they're
cousin.
all there, and you're singing your heart out, and reach the end of the song, and nobody turned
Nothing
around.
happens. Nothing happens.
So that
Oh,
was
that
like
was
your
a
one of
very
your
hard
first,
day.
big spotlights. How was that?
It was a horrible. It was a very hard day. I have to say, first of all, we can talk about the romantic of not giving up and always, but it was a horrible day. And you give so much to it, and you think so much about it, and you sort of think, I mean, the cliche, you really want it to be the cliche, to go back home as a winner, it's the least that can happen. I mean, look, I couldn't sleep for 2 weeks,
You couldn't sleep for two
but
weeks after. Wow.
I could sleep 2 weeks before,
Oh,
and I
before.
didn't want to wake up 2 weeks after. It was no, it's very tough. It was very tough. It feels like, sometimes I feel like sort of, but I couldn't continue without it. And I couldn't do what I'm doing right now without doing that. So it was something I had to do, but
Why?
it's
Why?
very hard because I met the guy. I mean, I met a very good friend of mine there, and he brought me to the agent I'm still working today. And so sort of like the reason, the way I needed to go there to meet that guy that linked me to that agent that linked me to that helped me to get the parts that I started rolling.
Yeah. It always
So
seems like such a hard profession, acting, because you need to keep going to these auditions where you're basically scrutinized, and you get a lot more rejections than. And then every once in a while you get a big role, and everybody like admires you, but there's actually a lot of rejection in this line of work.
you get 20% of I mean less, between 15 to 20% of the interviews that you're doing. It's an endless interview. It's an endless
Auditions.
what
Auditions, you mean?
auditions. Yeah, I mean auditions, but it's like in Hebrew, interview is like work interview. It's like you try and you want to take that job, but
Yeah.
it's not always like that. It's a lot of times the combination of you and the character, and you can feel whether you're exact for the character or not before the audition. But failure is a very big thing out of this business. Failure or not getting that job or chance. Really, really opportunities. Learning to know the opportunities, hold them. A lot of chance is in this industry, and
So
for a lot of times I
how do
thought,
you
for a
deal with
lot,
it?
yeah, and for a lot of time I thought, that's going to make me crazy because you don't know what's going to happen next because you finish a project and then you don't know what's going to be the next project.
Yeah.
But what I want too. I mean, my dad told me a very interesting thing, not a long time ago. You know that lions catch only 25% of their prey. I mean, they try when they're running after prey, they catch 25%,
Mm.
and most of the rain is falling in the ocean, and birds are eating most of the zraim. How do you say zraim?
Deeds.
Yeah. So it's sort of a law in nature to try a lot more times than what you get. And I think the most important thing is to try, is to keep trying, because the more you try, the more you get. If you don't get anything, if you don't get anything and nothing happens, you're doing something wrong. You're doing something wrong. I mean, it's not okay to keep trying after 100, 120 tryouts.
Yeah.
But if you catch some of them and some of them are not working and some of them are working and you can still live, that's all right. I mean, it's part of the business. It's just can get you tired. I mean, the really hard part is not getting tired with time,
Yeah.
and still give 100% to each one of the work. You know, I'm doing a short film with a very young director right here. Uh, Sort of, I don't know how many people are going to watch that film, but
Why are you doing it? You just fell in love with the script?
I love the script. I
Oh,
love the director. I love his mind. I think that we can do big things together in the future, and I think that he's going to be one of the greatest directors here. So I'm giving myself to it.
mm,
Uh, and as a small film, he got a very, very, very large budget and a very good story and an edgy story. So when you mixing it all together, I mean, I think it's a very good investment. So
mhm.
sometimes you invest, and sometimes sometimes you just you catch what you worked for.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not an easy business if you don't like that. It's not enough to like it. I think you need to love it. And if you don't love it, you don't do it.
Yeah.
If it's hard work just thinking about it, don't do it.
I can tell
So
from sort of from firsthand that you really do bring a lot of passion to everything you do. Um, we're gonna wrap up now. I think we're kind of out of time. I would love to just keep chatting with you, Ala, but let people get back to whatever they're doing in their lives. I want to thank you so much for this conversation and for your acting and for everything. Um,
thank you so much for inviting me. So
pleasure.
much, so much. It's been a
Thank you.
pleasure for me as well.
And yeah, and lots of luck with the film. I know you're in the middle of shooting, so I hope it goes well. And with the Avi Neshel film and
Yeah.
everything in the future. Thank you so much, Ala. Um,
Thank you so much.
to everybody at home, I just want to also thank you everybody for joining this conversation. I hope you had a good time. I'm sorry if I didn't get to everybody's questions. And just to invite you to our next session, which will be our last session, actually, on January 27th. So you're all welcome to join us on January 27th at 12 o'clock. Um, Actually, I'm slightly embarrassed for that session. This was Robin Menkel's idea to have my father, who's also a journalist and a professor, actually interview us. So Mishi, also my friend and co-founder, will come on, and we're going to switch roles. So instead of being the interviewer, which is a role I'm very comfortable in, we're going to actually let my father interview us, and sort of it'll be a cross-generational conversation, and we'll talk all about Israel story and the different stories we've done, and also how we sort of maintain our independence, because we have a pretty unique sort of business structure. And yeah, and my dad, I'm sure, is very excited to ask us all kinds of embarrassing questions. So I hope you'll join us for that. And until then, everybody, please stay safe, stay happy, stay well. Happy Hanukkah, and see you guys in a month. Bye bye.